The Fallout Prime video show is finally here. All the episodes have dropped. I am so bloody excited right now. I just got done watching the first episode, and what I want to do is do a breakdown of that first episode. And if you want to see more breakdowns from me, as I keep watching each episode, I can do a breakdown straight away and upload those videos as soon as possible. So if you enjoy this video and want to see more Fallout content from me, please like, subscribe if you're new, with notifications if that's possible. But let's get to this breakdown. First off, the very first song that plays in the Fallout series is Nat King Cole's Orange Colored Sky. Perfect choice, straight from the games. This reminded me of my Fallout 4 days gearing up to that game's launch, and it was an easy slam dunk for them to keep picking songs straight from the game. So love that they did this. I thought it was a great touch, great song. And straight away, we're starting off pre-war. We're not starting off in the Vault or in the Wasteland, where people that don't understand the lore of the Fallout franchise, because obviously there's going to be a lot of new eyeballs on this series, right? So people that don't understand the lore aren't guessing as to why there is this post-apocalyptia, right? They're starting off in the pre-war segment. They're telling you exactly what happened to North America, what happened with the Great War, and all that stuff. So we're specifically starting off focusing on Cooper Howard, who is Walton Goggins' character. He is a Hollywood icon. He's an actor who is implied he's pretty much in decline. He's not as popular as he used to be. So he's having to do birthday parties and tricks and stuff like that to get by, pay for his alimony is the joke that was made, to pay for his daughter and whatnot after presumably him and his ex-wife separated. So that's why he is there. Again, he's on the horse doing tricks. But the thing to note here is that you have to listen to what is being said on the radio. You have to look at what's being said on the TV. They're making references to a lot of conflict in the world at the moment, right? There's conflict especially with the US and other countries, especially other nuclear-capable countries. That's the main thing, because we're getting to a great war with nukes dropping. And they're saying that there are negotiations happening with another country, but the president, the whereabouts of the president, is unknown. Probably the president has hightailed it, is in a vault somewhere, he's on an offshore oil rig or whatever it might be, to hide from the inevitability of the Great War. I think they know that it's going to be happening, absolutely. So they don't know where the president is. Also, Anchorage, Alaska was mentioned on the TV too. For those of you that know the games, that was a nice little reference to what happened in Anchorage. You can see a Mr. Handy at the birthday party as well, which is pretty cool. And it's not Cooper Howard's wife, it's the wife of the party that essentially wants everyone to stop focusing on what's being talked about and all the conflict in the world and the inevitable war, essentially, and just focusing on the party so they can have a good time. So everyone's trying to forget what's happening in the world right now, which clearly is not going to be a good idea. So again, Cooper is working on kids' birthday parties. Cooper's daughter is there at that party, even though I don't think Cooper's daughter was a friend of the birthday boy. Doesn't matter. They're there. And Cooper doesn't want to do his signature thumbs up given the state of everything, right? And they refer to this, and I'll touch on this in a second, but essentially this thumbs up is very similar to the Vault Boy thumbs up from the Vault Boy of Fallout, right? So I thought this was a very, very cool reference, and I'll explain it more in a little bit when we get to that scene. But yeah, they are at this other person's house, and they put the TV back on, and the anchorman is like, I can't do the weather if I don't know if there's going to be weather next week, if there's going to be a world next week. So everyone is really scared about this inevitable Great War or this war and nukes dropping or whatever it might be. But then they change the channel and there's a Nuka-Cola ad, there's a Sugar Bombs ad, and then they're playing an episode of Grognak the Barbarian. Great reference. Freaking love that, right? The kids are watching that. I thought that was a great little inclusion of the games. And the daughter asks why Cooper won't do the thumbs up. So this is how they explain the reference to the Vault Boy thumbs up and why he's not doing it. So Cooper says he was a Marine, right? He was a Marine, again, similar to Fallout 4. Like, there are a lot of references and similarities to the story and plot points of the games, but he used to be a Marine, and he referenced that when you hold up your thumb, if the cloud of a nuke is smaller than your thumb, then you run. If it's bigger, there's no point in running because you're going to die, right? So this is, of course, a reference to the Vault Boy constantly putting his thumbs up and all of the, the art of Fallout and memorabilia and merchandise and all that kind of stuff. That's what the Vault Boy does, but that's the reason why he has the thumbs up. And we all kind of suspected that. I don't think Bethesda ever officially said this is why the Vault Boy puts his thumb up, but the show now kind of confirms it, saying, yeah, that's the reason why he's doing it. And that's why Cooper Howard also has it as well. He used to be a Marine, so he made it his signature, putting his thumb up as an actor. So I thought that was a great reference to the games, great reference to the lore. Absolutely love that. And his daughter asks if it's going to happen, like, is there going to be a nuclear war or whatever? And Cooper says he hopes not, right? Now, Cooper briefly goes inside, and the daughter notices this explosion in the background, and she instantly puts her thumb up. And she's like, is it your thumb or is it mine? And Cooper realizes that a bomb has dropped. Initially, he says that, it's just smoke, it's a fire. No one else in the party realizes. But eventually he realized what's going on. Honestly, at this stage, I got genuine chills. I was like, holy crap, like they're showing the Great War effectively how it would have happened. People were trying to ignore it to some extent, and it would have happened out of nowhere because people weren't really prepared. A lot of people weren't in their own shelters, or they weren't in the vault straight away. It was this sudden, really, in the lore of Fallout. That's why many people didn't make it to the vault. That's why many people died and didn't make it to their own shelters, yeah? So I like how they, made it seem like it was very sudden, even though the warning signs, of course, with the news anchor and the radio were there. But a lot of people were effectively none the wiser. They're a little bit ignorant to the situation. So it becomes more apparent that it's definitely a nuke. The shockwave hits the house, the windows shatter, and everyone realizes what the hell is going on. So Cooper and everyone runs away. Cooper picks up his daughter. And there's also a bomb shelter. For the owners of the house, there is a bomb shelter. They are prepared, but they're at their house and they can enter the shelter straight away. And he kicked out his friend who wanted to get into the shelter. So I thought that was a pretty nice touch. And then Cooper jumps on his horse with his daughter and tries to ride away. But it's not just the one nuke. There are multiple nukes going off. This is a true representation of the bloody Great War, and I absolutely love it. So kudos to them for doing this so perfectly. I thought it was a great start to the Fallout episode. Now they get to the Fallout title screen, and they say we are set 219 years later. So over 200 years after the Great War, we are in Vault 33 specifically. We knew that we were going to be in Vault 33. Vault 32 is, going to be included as well. Vault 31 is also referenced too, and I'll talk about that in a second. But we are starting off focusing on Lucy McLean, one of the main characters, let's call her protagonist in this series. And she's reading out a script for what it seems, but she's saying that she has science and speech skills, again, referenced in the games. She participates in gymnastics, intermediate phys ed, and even riflery, all that kind of stuff. She's trying to explain why she is a model citizen, and she's applying essentially to be married, right? And they also watch a movie. There's a little scene on there where you can see a movie with Cooper Howard. I thought that was a nice little touch. You can see another scene where her brother is playing with a game on the Pip-Boy. Again, a nice little reference to the games. Let me know. I might make a video that's like pointing out all the cool references to the games, at least in the first episode, because there were so many in this episode. I'll try and mention more of them as I go on, but I think a dedicated video would be better. So Lucy's saying that it's difficult for her to find a suitable marriage partner because when it came to the vaults, only a limited number of people went in, right, into each of these vaults. So for the vaults that were actually meant to be, non-experimental vaults and were meant to get a Gek and rebuild the wasteland and all that kind of stuff, like they had to procreate, they had to make babies and do that stuff. But obviously when you're going in with a limited number of families, it would be hard to not be with someone that's not your cousin or something, right? So Lucy is saying that this has been very hard. She's struggled to find an actual marriage partner that's not her cousin. And she wants to participate in the, I think she said it was triannual trade with Vault 32. So essentially they are trading partners so they can all, procreate together and keep rebuilding and going into the wasteland after all of that. So I thought this was a pretty cool thing. So Vault 32 and Vault 33 are absolutely connected. And we see that in a second, like physically they are connected. Potentially Vault 31 was as well. I'll talk about that in a second. So the judges, after hearing Lucy's application, they get on their Pip-Boys and they submit their answers, and it says on Lucy's Pip-Boy, I believe the level up sound played. I believe that's what it was. Oh no, it was the good karma sound. I think it was the good karma sound played, and it said that marriage application was approved for Lucy on her Pip-Boy. So it was all approved. Again, we go to another scene. They're setting up for Lucy's wedding. And we see Lucy's dad, Hank McLean. He's clearly going to be featuring heavily in this show. So she puts on a wedding dress, and it seems like that dress has been worn by all the other people that have also got married in a similar fashion in the vault. There's also this pregnant woman who is talking to Lucy, who went through the a very similar thing. So they all wore that dress. There's pretty much one dress all the women wear when they get married. So Lucy does seem a little unsure when the pregnant vault dweller mentions that, we can raise our kids together and whatnot. But Lucy's dad absolutely seems excited. And I mentioned in a previous video, they have this thing called the Telesonic Magica 3D camera, right? Essentially what that is doing is giving the backdrop effect of this open field with crops. So they do have crops in the vault. We know that they grow crops in the vault, right? But they have this backdrop effect, which kind of makes the scene look a lot bigger than it actually is. I thought that was very cool, a very nice touch. I don't believe that camera is actually in the games, but this is one of those inclusions of tech which makes sense in the lore of Fallout. Absolutely love that. So Lucy is speaking with her dad, right? And he says that she looks just like her mother, but she's no longer around. Lucy asks her dad if he was scared when he first married Mum. And he was like, he never stepped foot outside of Vault 31. And then he met her eventual mother, of course. And he said that Vault 31 was a distant memory from that moment on. So it seems like the guess that I'm getting here, or the suggestion that I'm getting, is that Vault 31, 32, and 33 were all connected, because he said he never stepped outside of Vault 31 and then met, his eventual wife or partner, and then they had Lucy. So the only way that happens if he actually left the vault properly, or were internal in the vault going through these marriage applications like Vault 32 and Vault 33 just did. I think that's what they're suggesting, right? I don't think Vault 31 is completely separated from 32 and 33. But if that's the case, then why isn't 31 in the picture anymore? Is it in the picture? Maybe we don't know that yet. So I think that's very interesting. At the very least, we know that 32 and 33 are connected. And every now and again, they do these cross trades or whatever with people to make sure people can get married and keep procreating and having babies that aren't related to one another. All right, that's the key joke that's being made here. And also, we know that Lucy's dad, Hank, is the overseer, so that's an important thing to note. They then enter Vault 32, so again, we know that they're connected. And then Lucy's brother makes jokes about who the arranged husband might be. This is an arranged wedding, right? It's very Vault-Tec themed and whatnot. It's all happy-go-lucky, but it is an arranged wedding. And they connect the Pip-Boy, like they do in Fallout 4, to open the Vault 32's door. I thought that was a great little touch, and they keep doing that to open different doors in the vault, and we'll get to that in a second as well. The guy that's opening the vault, though, is Lucy's cousin, and he doesn't want to do it. He's saying there's a jam. Oh, we can't do it. I should be with you, Lucy. And then Lucy's like, you're my cousin. We can't do this, right? It's not sustainable, especially when it comes to sex. So eventually he's like, all right, I'll open the door. So I think that's a very clever reference to the games and how there are so many there are limited numbers of people in these vaults. So yeah, there are going to be people related to each other, right? And these kind of conversations would absolutely happen, especially between cousins. So it is kind of weird. It is, of course, incestuous, but this would happen if, the Vault-Tec and the vaults and everything were actually real. So Vault 32's door actually opens. They are waiting for them. But it seems very unsettling from the get-go, right? Straight away, you notice that something is off, right? And then now Lee Moldova, I think that's what she called herself. She said that she's the overseer of Vault 32. But if you've watched other scenes of Fallout, you know that she has appeared in the Wasteland before, right? Like in the trailer, she was appearing outside of the world. So clearly I knew something from the get-go, something was not right. She was not actually the overseer of the vault. So the other overseer, or Hank, says he was sorry about the previous overseer's passing due to blight hitting their wheat. They think blight hit the wheat, and that's why the previous overseer died, and that's why their crops have been affected. So they offer seed and parts for machinery in exchange for someone from Vault 32 to come and marry Lucy and obviously procreate and have a baby, right? So there is an exchange that's going on here. And then a guy walks forward from Vault 32. He says his name is Monty. He's a good-looking guy, but clearly something is off about him. And they get married and they have a party. So Lucy, it's very funny. Lucy is clearly, has been molded as this typical kind of vault dweller, is very indoctrinated to Vault-Tec and rebuilding America and all that kind of stuff. So straight away, Lucy was like at the table, hey, what's your sperm count, Monty? It's very important, and da-da-da-da-da. It was very, very funny. There's a lot of really nice jokes in this series. Lucy was like, your vault doctor must check your physical every now and again, right? And Lucy's talking like she's very scripted. She's a run-of-the-mill vault dweller, as I mentioned. And then Lucy's dad does a speech saying that we're all bonded as neighbors, Vault 32 and Vault 33, and they have a shared duty to keep the candle of civilization lit while the rest of the world is cast into darkness. And then he says, soon, radiation levels on the surface are going to be dropping to the stage that the next generation, i.e. the eventual kids of Lucy and Monty, will actually be able to finally exit the vault and recolonize. So to me, this was absolutely a control vault, right? Both with Vault 32 and Vault 33. Yes, there is an experiment because they're connected and they have these annual or whatever trades where they can marry each other and have babies with each other. But to me, even though that's technically an experiment, this is as much of a control vault as you could possibly get. So they probably have a GEC somewhere. Eventually they are monitoring the radiation levels and eventually they will leave the vault. But clearly something happens and I'll explain that in a second. So they say after 200 years, they still don't know much about the outside world. He says that the survivors need to be shown a better way and that he's afraid, but he feels hope when he looks at his daughter, Lucy. So Lucy and her dad share their first dance together. The brother then joins them. Then Lucy and Monty start dancing together. So At this stage, everything is going okay, but clearly something is wrong, right? So after dancing, Monty asks Lucy to show him to his new home, but then Vault 32's overseer clearly has an unsettling look on her face. Monty closes the door when they get to the room. He takes off his Vault jumpsuit, gets naked, and then Lucy's like, okie dokie, and then they start having sex to have that baby. It was very, very funny, right? Again, this is all tongue-in-cheek, it's a big joke. And Lucy is clearly on board to start procreating and having babies to support the Vault and whatnot, to start rebuilding America. But then Lucy's brother is the one that starts to suspect that something is wrong, right? So he actually goes to Vault 32, which is still open, mind you, and he's investigating. All their crops are dead. Now, initially, because they said they had a blight, that's not the craziest thing to say, but he goes to investigate a little bit further. Everything is in shambles. The lights are off. Everything has been thrown around. Everything's a mess. There's a corpse on a chair with legs missing. So clearly, as soon as I saw this, yeah, Vault 32 was overrun by raiders, and clearly all the people that were in Vault 32 jumpsuits were raiders in disguise, and because that vault was in shambles, they want to go to Vault 33 for a reason, right? And we get to that in a second. So gunshots go off. Lucy raises her Pip-Boy to Monty and notices that he's irradiated, so realizes that he's from the surface and that they're probably raiders. I thought this was very clever to use the Pip-Boy as a way to measure the rads on Monty to realize that he's actually from the outside world. So very cool reference. Monty and Lucy then start attacking each other. He pulls out a knife. Lucy hits him. They keep going back and forth, right? And then he eventually stabs her. And then she gets this glass, smashes it, and slits his neck. This is when we realize how violent the show really is. It gets gory, and it's freaking awesome, right? So she slashes him with that glass, and then she pulls out a first aid kit, grabs a stim pack, and then heals herself in the wound that she has, but she's still bleeding. So these stim packs aren't, like they are in the games, they can heal absolutely everything. She still needs to eventually, fix up the wound that she has with stitches. So these stim packs aren't as powerful as they are in the games, but I think that's absolutely fine. That's a hard thing to get right lore-wise. Like if you get stabbed and then you put a stim pack in there, people that don't know Fallout watching this thing are going to be like, how the hell did you fix that wound, right? Is a stim pack that powerful? Anyways, I thought that I'd mention that. So Lucy walks outside, notices a bunch of people are dead. The priest that wedded them is actually stabbed on the wall. The armory has been raided, and Lucy finds one of the guns that she can. This is where she finds the gun, which essentially is a trank gun, and she uses that to shoot people with darts. They have drugs in them, and then they get, all disorientated, and eventually they get knocked out. So people are getting shot, they're getting killed. The raiders are pretty brutal with how they're killing everyone. It's insane. There's like a really cool slow motion scene where everyone is attacking each other. We saw glimpses of that, mind you, in the trailers and the lead up to the show. So you can see the raiders that have taken off their Vault jumpsuits. They have very typical raider armor like you would see in the games. So they were hiding that under their Vault jumpsuits. Lucy's brother is hiding. He's a bit of a scaredy cat. The violence is brutal, guys. Absolutely brutal. There's this one scene where the gun gets shoved into this guy's mouth, the barrel of the gun, and shoots other Vault dwellers while the barrel is in the mouth. Gruesome. Freaking love this. It was the cool thing. I loved it. I love how gruesome that this show is being. It is staying true to the games because they're absolutely gruesome. So Lucy herself continues to shoot people with the trank gun, trying to get to her brother. That's her priority at the moment. She's seeing people getting stabbed and slashed. Even the pregnant girl that I mentioned before, who was Lucy's friend, her husband dies. And if you remember in a previous scene, she gets stabbed in the eye with a fork and she gets pissed off because her husband is dead and she starts shooting all the raiders. Great scene. We then cut to Lucy's cousin who's looking at this raider and he's like, please sir, don't make me use force. And the raider takes some jet, which is again a nice little cool reference to the games, and is about to go crazy. And then he gets tripped by another Vault dweller into the Vault door and is squished. That was freaking gruesome. I freaking love that bit. All bloody. Lucy then manages to save her brother, hides him in a storage under the ground so he's safe. Monty is still alive. He comes back. His face is all slashed up. That looks freaking great. And then Lucy's dad saves Lucy, smacked him with a shovel a couple of times, and then drowns him in a barrel of water. So that was pretty cool. And then the background goes to Please Stand By. So you remember the 3D camera that I was mentioning that kind of portrayed that field of crops? It then changes to Please Stand By because the camera gets damaged. So I thought that was a nice little reference and inclusion to the games. And then Lucy and her dad try to run off, but then they get to this room where several of the Vault dwellers who are still alive are caught by the raiders, and the raiders have put together a makeshift bomb, and the raider leader, who said that she was the overseer, has a detonator device. And the dad says to this girl, I think I know who you are. And she's like, everyone knows who I am. So this is interesting because Hank said that he never left Vault 31 until he met, Lucy's mother, and then eventually, presumably, went to Vault 32 and Vault 33. But saying that, I think I know who you are, clearly, Hank has an idea about who some of the people are in the actual real world, who some of the key honchos are, and the raiders and all that good stuff. So probably at some stage, he actually was in the Wasteland, and then he made his way to Vault 32 and Vault 33. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know how Hank would know about who this girl is, but clearly, she's someone of big notoriety. She's some sort of raider leader. Initially, I suspected that she might have been the head of the NCR because of what she was wearing in one of the videos and trailers for the show before it actually released. But she is a raider leader, so I don't know if we're going to see the NCR in season 1. Let's see. She offers her dad a choice, right? Either the Vault Dweller or his daughter. Clearly, Hank picks his daughter, wants to save her, puts her in a closet and says, "You are my world," and that's how he saves her. He's then shot with a tranq gun. He's not dead, clearly. He will likely come back. The leader does say to Lucy, "You look like your mother." Somehow, this raider leader knew Lucy's mum too. So something is going on there. Something is absolutely going on. That's going to be teased out, of course, as the rest of the series goes on. And then they take Hank away. She detonates the bomb. She tells all of them to run and hide, and the bomb explodes. Interestingly, she doesn't straight away kill them. She gives them the opportunity to run away, and most of them, after that point, actually do survive, at least those ones that weren't killed by raiders previously. And that was the end of the whole Vault 33 scene. We now get to Maximus and the Brotherhood of Steel. Let's go, brother. This is what I was looking forward to. So we are clearly at a Brotherhood of Steel base where they're training a bunch of aspirants to eventually become knights and all that good stuff. So Maximus is getting his ass beat by a bunch of other aspirants in the Brotherhood of Steel. He gets his ass beat, he's on the ground, he gets helped up from the ground by one of his friends, and then someone is there raising a flag for the Brotherhood of Steel. I thought that was a nice little touch. There are kids smoking cigarettes too, so as we know in the lore of Fallout, these kids are taken into the Brotherhood of Steel if they're abandoned or they're out in the wasteland or whatnot. They're taken in as kids very early as aspirants, and they're indoctrinated into the Brotherhood of Steel. That's exactly what happened to Maximus's character, and we see that in flashbacks, and that's probably going to continually be teased out as the rest of the series goes on. So then there are a number of statements that are made that I wrote verbatim that I think are interesting for the Brotherhood of Steel. They said, it is the duty for the Brotherhood of Steel to secure the Wasteland. They're in a class where they're training these squires, and they say they need to acquire pre-war tech. So this is very much representative of the Brotherhood of Steel in the games. That is their number one mission, not just to secure the Wasteland, but it's to secure pre-war tech. That's what they're doing. And then one of the teachers shows Maximus he's like, what is this graph? What does this represent? And he doesn't say it correctly. It's meant to be a circuit. He gets smacked, and he's like, you should know what this is. So the teacher is like, we are the finders and preservers of technology. And then in the middle of the class, we finally see the Prydwen style ship. It's not called the Prydwen, but I'm not too sure what the name is yet. We see the Prydwen style ship arrive at the Brotherhood of Steel base with a bunch of vertibirds. Everyone in the class rushed to see it. This was the coolest freaking scene, bro. You get a bunch of knights in T60 power armor walking towards them. It's the version specifically with the Brotherhood of Steel insignia on them, so that's really cool. Maximus does wonder while they're there, but he also makes a reference to all the other aspirants and says those are the new T60 power armor model. So that's really nice. I don't think we are going to be seeing any of the other models of the power armor because I haven't seen any of them yet in the show. It would be nice to see some of the T45s and the T51s and all that good stuff, but maybe we'll get there eventually, maybe in future seasons, who knows, if this is actually renewed for a new season, and it might actually be. So then there is another scene where a coded message is being sent through to identify a target of some kind, and this will be teased out later. Maximus is then doing latrine duties, and then his friend, who's another aspirant, wants to show him something, takes him to a room, and there's a bunch of the T60 power armors on the frames, on the stand. They look just like they do from the games. This was freaking cool as well. Straight like from Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. And then he touches one of the power armors, and then he remembers himself as a kid looking at a Brotherhood of Steel member, a knight presumably, who saved him as a kid. Something happened to Maximus as a kid. That's why he was taken into the Brotherhood of Steel. That's why he's there now and is training to be a Brotherhood of Steel member. And then Maximus's friend is then summoned by Brotherhood of Steel members. And then they go to another scene where Maximus is asleep. He gets woken up by a bunch of people celebrating. And they're celebrating because Maximus's friend has been anointed or appointed to be a squire in the Brotherhood of Steel. It's very interesting that they're using the word squire because squire in the games, if you remember, was an East Coast chapter Brotherhood of Steel thing, right? If a kid was adopted or brought into the Brotherhood of Steel very, very young, they were eventually given the rank squire in the Brotherhood of Steel. So it was a very, very low rank. They're not meant to be in combat or anything like that, but they're using the term squire in this series. So I thought that was interesting because, of course, we're not in the East Coast in this series. We are on the West Coast. And Maximus, of course, looks disappointed. He wants to become a squire. He wants to move up in the ranks of the Brotherhood of Steel. And then he gets pissed off at a bin for some reason. He gets clearly very, very angry. But then the next morning, there is something that's going on. So Maximus's friend, who just got anointed or appointed, they put their foot into a boot which has a razor blade in it and gets very, very injured. Someone has done this to them. They have an injury. They, of course, can't do their duties anymore as a newly appointed member of the Brotherhood of Steel. And they initially straight away suspect Maximus, probably because Maximus was so pissed off. He was emotional about the situation. So then we go back to Vault 33 and they are repairing the vault. They are painting the blood on the walls. They are composting the dead bodies. We know, again, this is a reference to the game. We know that they have ways of dealing with dead bodies in Fallout, in the vaults. And usually in the vaults, they actually cremate them. They, burn them in the big furnace. But in this vault, they are composting them. So I thought that was pretty interesting to know how they deal with dead bodies in Vault 33. Lucy, as I mentioned before, she stitches her stab wound back together. So the stim pack is not this be all and end all when it comes to healing. It can't do absolutely everything in the show. And then they have a bit of a talk as to what happened, what they should be doing. Lucy has a proposal. She says that we shall send a search party out into the wasteland to find her dad, the Overseer. Everyone is absolutely against this. They say we shouldn't be opening the outer vault door. We've never done this before. And again, this feels reminiscent of the vaults in the games where they've been told that they've never opened the outer doors of the vault, which clearly I don't think is actually true. I think they've all been very much indoctrinated, possibly by Hank as the Overseer to say, hey, this has never happened before. But I reckon Hank has probably left at some stage and came into Vault 32 and he's just not telling everyone. Again, like we saw with Vault 101 in Fallout 3, clearly, people are exiting the vault at some stage and they're keeping that a secret. Anyways, another vault dweller says that their first priority has to be to maintain the security of the vault so they can't open the vault doors. Lucy's brother is like, they don't want to find Dad because they probably want to be in charge. If they find Lucy's dad and they bring him back, he's still going to be the Overseer. So he suspects that's what's going on. Lucy walks off. She's crying, but she looks at a Vault Boy poster that's like, don't lose your head. And she suddenly gets a lot of confidence and clearly she wants to leave. So Lucy's brother, Lucy herself, and Lucy's cousin all get together. They have this plan. They open the vault elevator to get to the vault door. So this vault is very deep in the ground. And I like this. They have an elevator to take them all the way to the outer vault door. So I thought that was a pretty cool reference. And then the bridge closes. Again, this looked very much like the games, especially Vault 76 from memory. The bridge closes and Lucy approaches the vault door. Again, Lucy's cousin's like, I want to go with you. Clearly, he's in love with her. It's kind of weird. And she says, it's dangerous out there. You kind of need me. The elevator closes, though. Clearly, someone has recalled the elevator and wants to try and stop what Lucy is doing. Lucy tranks her cousin, puts a little trank dart in his hand, and is like, you're not coming with me. Lucy's brother wasn't in on that, didn't realize what was going on, but Lucy was like, don't make me do that to you too. And he's like, I'm too chicken to leave anyway. So it's just going to be Lucy leaving at this stage, as we of course know from the footage before the show was actually released. And Lucy said that she's going to bring their dad home. The vault door opens. Then two vault dwellers who came back up the elevator were like, hey, Lucy, stop. Don't exit the vault. But she doesn't listen to them. They try to close the vault door. It doesn't close in time. And Lucy leaves. And then the vault door closes. So finally, Lucy is out in the wasteland. She's out of the vault. There's a lot of sand, a lot of dirt, skulls, and even petrified bodies because of the war. If you've ever been to Pompeii in Italy or seen the petrified bodies there, that's exactly what they look like. And that interests me. I've always wondered why those kinds of petrified bodies haven't appeared in the games. I thought that was a nice little touch. The vault as well is right by the water, and excuse my ignorance on this, they're near an amusement park. I think this is the Santa Monica Pier. For those of you that live in LA, for those of you that live on the West Coast, please tell me if I'm wrong. Is this Santa Monica Pier or is it not? I've never been there before. So then Lucy's like, okie dokie, and starts to walk away. And then we go back to Maximus. We go back to the Brotherhood of Steel. So Maximus has been taken away to a room, and he's being interrogated to see if he's the one that caused the injury to his friend. He's being interrogated. The Brotherhood of Steel elder, I believe, is like, we've given you a name, food, education, a place in the world, so we expect for you to tell us the truth. He's asked by the elder, why did he join the Brotherhood of Steel? And this is when Maximus is like, to hurt the people who hurt him. There's a bit of a flashback to him as a kid. Again, he was saved by a Brotherhood knight, so he joined the Brotherhood of Steel, which implies that he had a choice, which I don't know how true it is. But he says, he joined the Brotherhood of Steel so he can hurt the people that hurt them. And we'll probably find out more about what happened to him as a kid as the show goes on, because we keep getting those flashbacks to him as a kid. And then he's asked by the elder, who was the one that injured his friend. Maximus said, look, it wasn't me. I don't know who it was. The fellow aspirants apparently were like, it was Maximus that did it, and accused him of doing it. And then he is questioned further. There was this really cool scene where the T60 knight, or the knight in T60 power armor behind him, walks up to him, was very intimidating, and was like, speak. That was freaking sick. Love that. Maximus then is in tears. He's clearly scared. And he's like, look, I didn't do it. He did say, though, that he wanted it to happen, and he asked if that was wrong to the Elder. And then the Elder was like, yes, that's absolutely wrong. Violence is merely a tool. The Brotherhood of Steel is only using violence as a tool to bring order to the Wasteland, to capture pre-war tech. But when it comes to violence specifically against another Brother of Steel, it's a sign of weakness, and it's a bad thing that Maximus thinks that, right? So he's asked to defend himself one last time, and Maximus says, look, I want to thank you for your guidance and for giving me a home. I think at this stage, he kind of accepts that he's probably going to get killed because they just suspect that it's him. He said that he had no place or no home before the Brotherhood of Steel, and he's like, if he can help make the Brotherhood better, whatever he needs to do, he will do it. And then the Elder is like, good boy, and then you'll be Knight Titus's new squire. So instead of his friend being the squire, who's now injured, it's now going to be Maximus. So Maximus returns to his friend, and they say, look, it's not so bad. I'll still have a place at the Brotherhood of Steel. Maximus will be taking their spot again as Knight Titus's squire. And there's also a bit of a conversation about how people suspected if Maximus was the one that hurt them. And then they're like, look, I didn't suspect it was you. I said that you wouldn't hurt a fly and whatnot. So finally, right, we get to the scene. It's like the coronation or the initiation, whatever you want to call this ceremony, where aspirant Maximus is finally becoming a squire in the Brotherhood of Steel. They talk a lot about the Brotherhood of Steel. It feels very, again, quasi-religious. They have this, strict dogma. They have a sacred duty to protect the Brotherhood of Steel, the mission. You have to protect your lord, Knight Titus. He was called his lord now. It felt very, very dogmatic, like a very strict ritual of some kind. I really like this. I think this is a very nice callback to the way the Brotherhood of Steel was represented in the original Fallout games. So this was cool. And then Knight Titus was the one that was burning his hand, his power armor hand, on the fire, and then burns the back of Maximus's neck with the letter T to represent his name, I presume. So that was really cool. And the Elder is giving a speech, and they're also outside as well, saying that their mission, where they are now, is coming from the highest clerics in the Commonwealth. So explaining why that they're there. And apparently there is a member of the Enclave who has escaped, and they have an object with them that has the profound potential to either harm or save the nation. And I wonder what this object is. But someone was in the Enclave. They escaped the Enclave. And also as well, the dog with them. We know that there's a dog in this series. The dog is with this person that escaped, who is now the Brotherhood of Steel's new target with this object of some kind. And each knight is going to be assigned a sector in this area to find this person to eventually get this object. And of course, that's why the Brotherhood of Steel is interested, because this object would probably be some sort of pre-war tech. It also explains why the Brotherhood of Steel is on the West Coast in this area. It feels like a temporary base that they've set up to train people up, and it explains why they're here in the first place. That's my speculation. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So finally, Maximus is handed a paper with the target, and then also you can see the companion dog there to help identify who that person is. Maximus is carrying the equipment for Knight Titus. So as a squire, that's what his duty is now, to do everything that Knight Titus wants, get his coffee, carry his equipment, and all that kind of stuff, which is stupid because he's wearing a T60 power armor and he's much stronger than Maximus. Anyways, and then they all take off in the vertibirds, and that's pretty cool. And then we finally get to the scene with the ghoul. So we've had Lucy, we've had Maximus get a focus, and now it's the ghoul's time. He is one of the three main characters in the show. So the ghoul at the moment is actually buried in a grave underground. There's someone protecting the grave, or the grave site, and there are three people essentially trying to save the ghoul and get him out of the ground. They use a junk jet, which is freaking cool. They use a junk jet to shoot the foot of a baby doll to this guy, and he gets killed. That was a really, really cool scene. So someone has buried the ghoul in the ground, and he's also connected to an IV with some sort of radiation fluid to keep the ghoul alive. Like, ghouls still need to eat and stuff and whatnot, and they thrive off radiation. So even though he's underground and clearly has no air under there, he's still alive because he has this thing connected to it through an IV. And that's definitely the ghoul's character. They ask whether, could this ghoul be feral? Why are we doing this? And they have this chicken as a test, and they say if the ghoul tries to eat the chicken, then he's feral and we should kill them, right? So they pull out the casket, they open it. Yes, it is Cooper Howard's character. It is the ghoul, and they stay on guard. The ghoul slowly gets out of the casket. Definitely isn't feral. He's just coughing and stretching a little bit. He eyes down the three guys, says, "Who are you? Why are you here?" The main guy says, "Welcome back. His name is Honcho." He also mentioned that the Ghoul character used to roll with his dad, and that's why the Ghoul character is so old, right? Because he's pre-war, he, survived the Great War, and they're able to survive and live very, very long periods of time. So that's why he was able to roll with Honcho's dad. And then the Ghoul walks up to the chicken. The dude asks whether that counts, like just picking up the chicken, and whether they should shoot and kill the guy. So Honcho explains that, look, there's a bounty that's come down. This is the same bounty or the same target that the Brotherhood of Steel just identified in the previous scenes. So someone has made a run from the Enclave. It's the same doctor and a dog has some sort of object, and asks if the Ghoul would be interested. They then mention that they're going to be going back to Cooper Howard's hometown originally, obviously before he became a Ghoul. So that's why they thought he would be interested. Things get a little bit hostile, and then they're like, "Look, we're going to put you back into the ground." And then the Ghoul's like, "I do this shit for the love of the game," starts attacking them. He hides behind one of the guys who shoots the junk jet, kills his friend, and then he gets a shotgun and blows off that guy's head. And then the Ghoul says to the main dude, "Yes, this here was your last job," puts him in the casket in the ground. And then we go to the end credit scene, and they're playing Crawl Out Through the Fallout. Again, another song from Fallout 4. Freaking great. Love it. Credits roll. That was episode 1 of the Fallout Prime Video show. Again, if you want to see more episode breakdowns from me, please let me know. But I do think I want to do a video that references all the things and all the Easter eggs and secrets that obviously make a connection to the game. So let me know if you want to see that. And until next time, this has been A Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.